Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
Because you're mine, I walk the line.
The deep, resonant voice and the depths of human emotion that his music evokes have made him the quintessential country music legend.
If God had a voice, it'd be Johnny Cash.
It would almost make you get cold chills just watching this guy because he had so much charisma.
He became an indefinable force embraced by the world.
That voice became what defined rock and roll to me.
He waged a heroic struggle with the demons of his darker nature.
I lay down on the floor of the cave and I said, God, take me away.
Always the rebel, ever restless, ever the artist, he forged creative rebirth in the winter of his life.
I'm gonna break my...
A revealing look at the uncommon life and celebrated career of the greatest country artist of all time, Johnny Cash, on CMT Inside Fame.
Everybody loves Johnny. I mean, I remember the first time I ever met Bono from U2. That was one of the first questions he asked me. You know, what's Johnny Cash like?
Johnny Cash's career spans 5 decades. He has sold over 50 million records, won 13 Grammys, and is the only living performer ever inducted into the Country Music Songwriters and Rock and Roll Halls of Fame. He is a common man who has reached a staggering level of fame and success.
It's not just his music, it's the whole character that's involved.
Yeah.
You know, he brings a lot more to the table than just what you hear. He's like a rock star. He has a very progressive mentality.
With his deep rumbling voice and his simple but eloquent songs of the common man, Johnny Cash forever changed the face of popular American music. The unadorned signature rhythm, plus the intensity of his presence, combined to produce music greater than the sum of its parts.
Delia's gone, one more round. Delia.
Although in recent years Johnny's health has been unstable, his spirit and heart remain steadfast. In 1997, he was diagnosed with a neurological disorder, autonomic neuropathy, which complicates bouts of diabetes and glaucoma. However, the man in black is still the consummate artist, whose creative juices flow as vibrantly as ever.
It's not unusual for me to go to Tower Records and have a 17-year-old kid who works in the store come over and say, when's the next Johnny Cash record coming out?
He has an air of mystery and grief and power.
Icon. Johnny Cash is an icon. He's larger than life. He's unbelievable.
Johnny Cash is in a category all of his own and will always be.
Johnny Cash was born February 26, 1932 in Kingsland, Arkansas, the fourth of 7 children born to Ray and Carrie Cash. His given name at birth was simply the initials J.R., which is how he was known throughout most of his early life. Although the Cashes were never destitute, like many families, they struggled with the hard times of the Great Depression. Ray Cash did what he had to do to survive in those desperate times.
My dad was, from the early years, he was a hobo. A hobo, there's 2 kinds. There's a bum and then there's a hobo who travels from place to place looking for work. My dad was a working hobo.
He was just a real down-to-earth, genuine person who worked hard and expected others to work hard.
At the age of 3, J.R.'s father moved the family to Dyess, Arkansas to take advantage of a government-sponsored sharecropping scheme. There, the family farmed 20 acres of cotton in the fertile black soil of the Mississippi Delta. It was a hard and uncertain life. J.R.'s only comfort was in music and song.
I remember when I was a lad, times were hard and things were bad.
They would sing together. They would sing on the porch and sing in the evenings. So it was a musical family.
J.R. spent countless hours singing along with the family radio. Among his favorites, the Grand Ole Opry on Friday and Saturday night, the Carter Family, and the Louvin Brothers. He decided early on that he wanted to sing and write songs like those he heard on the radio, and his mother, Carrie, encouraged his musical aspirations.
When his voice broke, she remarked upon it right away and said that he had the gift.
She was very delighted that he had, started singing. She always thought he would. She told me when he was 5 years old, she knew he was different.
I can remember the first song that I ever sang with my mother. It was a song called What Would You Give in Exchange for Your Soul? I hear it today. I hear these songs today. It takes me home. What would you give in exchange? What would you give in exchange? What would you give in exchange for your soul? Oh, if today God should call you away, then what would you give in exchange for your soul? Pardon the impromptu concert there.
J.R.'s talent for gospel singing was appreciated by his older brother, Jack, as well. Jack was a friendly boy who dreamed of being a preacher. Everyone loved Jack, especially J.R. Growing up, Jack was J.R.'s closest friend and dearest companion.
And he looked up to Jack, and he thought Jack was a very good person. Jack wanted to be a preacher. He had a very strong moral sense. Plus, he was also his big brother and a lot of fun.
In 1944, when Johnny was 12 and Jack was 14, tragedy struck the Cash family. Jack was working a Saturday job at the school workshop when he fell on top of an electric table saw. The blade ravaged Jack's body and left him in a coma, barely clinging to life. The family kept a bedside vigil waiting for the inevitable, which came 8 days later. J.R. listened as his dying brother spoke of the beautiful music he heard from the other side.
He described the sounds, the singing of the angels, the beautiful angels singing, he said. And he asked my mother, he said, Mama, can't you hear the angels singing? He said, meet me there someday. Meet me in heaven someday.
Jack died at 6:42 a.m. on May 20th, 1944. I remember the funeral, and I remember the sadness.
Jack's death had a profound effect on young J.R. He struggled to find meaning in the loss of his brother.
He became very quiet, and my mother said that he didn't say much, for several months, or maybe even a year after Jack's death.
It's something that he still battles with. It's a part of his soul. It's in his character. It's in his blood.
This has plowed on John's mind forever, and it will forever. And because of this, he's taken different paths in some things in his life.
I thought, if he's so dispensable, how about me? How about everybody? Are we all dispensable? Where do we stand with God?
Coming up on CMT Inside Fame, two strangers changed Johnny's life forever.
There's something about you guys. You're not like everybody else. And they said, I like that.
And later, Johnny marries one woman.
They had this little love affair going across the seas, and when he got back, they got married.
Only to give his heart to another.
He was married, and I was married to somebody else, and the only thing to do was run.
When CMT Inside Fame continues.
Luttrell, Tennessee, population 865. Neyland Stadium, Knoxville, population 61,000 screaming fans. Kenny Chesney comes home in a big way. 90 minutes of cutting-edge Kenny, personal footage, backstage moments in the year's most revealing concert event, all in stunning high-definition video. He left with big dreams. Now, Kenny Chesney returns home a big star. Kenny Chesney, Back Where I Come From. Tuesday night at 8, 7 Central on CMT.
You're watching CMT's Tribute to Johnny Cash with an encore presentation of Inside Fame. And next, Johnny Cash's prison concert.
Wetting the bed, I'd really like to stop that. If one of my friends came over and I wet the bed, I would feel scared. They have helped because I don't wet the sheet anymore because of the good nights. So I don't have to change my sheet or my blanket. I just put on new ones and I go right back to sleep.
To the 1 in 9 kids who wet the bed, Goodnight's disposable underpants protect, yet look and feel like real underwear. Goodnights mean good mornings.
They helped me be more confident in myself.
For the first time ever on DVD and video, you can prepare for a journey beyond your imagination and discover the light.
The mask of life has chosen you.
Ride the adventure.
Jump on!
Live the legend. Bionicle, Mask of Light, the movie. Rated PG. On DVD and video this Tuesday.
Women are taking Haynes our way, places we've never been before. Tonight, we'll ask the babysitter to stay late. We'll celebrate 10-year anniversaries and very first jobs. Tonight, we'll go to a restaurant we can't afford. Tonight, we'll stop him dead in his tracks. The new Body Creations collection from Hanes Her Way. Where will you take us?
Get in the zone. Auto Zone.
If you're driving around with worn-out brake pads on your car, that's dangerous. Get to AutoZone for a new set of brakes today. Get in the zone.
AutoZone.
Want to see fewer wrinkles but not ready for chemical peels or injections? Neutrogena Healthy Skin Anti-Wrinkle Cream has retinol, essential for skin cell regeneration. It's dermatologist proven to visibly reduce lines and wrinkles. Would you use it? I would. Neutrogena Healthy Skin Anti-Wrinkle Cream.
4 out of 5 dentists surveyed would recommend Trident for their patients who chew gum. But what about the 5th dentist? There are many theories, but one thing's for sure. Long-lasting Trident is good for teeth.
I'll be right back. Who on earth wears white during their period? Girls who use Tampax Pearl. Extraordinary protection, a revolutionary absorbent braid, and form-fitting widthwise expansion. Get Pearl, wear white. End of story.
Time to get to work. It's Monday morning. If you haven't left your address, you better.
Starbucks Double Shot Espresso drink is an invigorating blend of espresso and cream to help you take on your day.
Once you were dry. I made you juicy. You were weak. And I made you beefy. You were bland. I made you tasty. Lee and Barrett.
This is my land, and this is my Kubota Grandel.
Notice how he introduces the tractor first.
This is my wife, Kathy.
He spends a lot of time with his Kubota. Jerry!
This field used to be filled with rocks and brush. Well, we took care of that.
I told him we need to spend more time together. So, I got my own Kubota.
Reliable, versatile, easy to operate. Kubota. Everything you value.
Time Warner Digital Cable gives you the power to control movies.
There is no proof that Daredevil even exists.
Speak of the devil, and the devil appears.
How you doing? Let's play.
Play it anytime, and control the action as you watch.
So does every guy have to go through all this to find out your name?
Try asking for my number.
Order Daredevil for only $3.95 and control it for up to 24 hours. Eye control from Time Warner Digital Cable.
Fire.
When Johnny Cash's childhood was marked by the harsh times of the Great Depression and the accidental death of his older brother, Jack. Following the tragic death, Johnny, known then as JR, found himself heartbroken, angry, and searching for answers. He pondered how his brother could be taken from him so brutally.
I don't think John ever got over it, because he could have been in that sawmill that day just as easily as Jack did.
But it's the toughest thing to do, to see your brother go.
Life without Jack was painful, but he comforted himself with his music and the notion that one day he would sing and write songs just like those he heard on the radio. After graduating from high school in 1950, JR enlisted in the Air Force. Though the 18-year-old had been known as JR all of his life, his superior officers insisted that he select a proper full name for their records. He chose the name John. During basic training, Johnny met a beautiful 17-year-old high school senior named Vivian Liberto. She caught his eye at a skating rink in San Antonio, just 3 weeks before he was to be shipped off to Germany.
He spotted her, and he bet his buddy that he was going to walk that young girl home that night. And he won the bet, and he walked my mother home. And that was the start of their romance.
They would write to each other every day when he was in Germany, and she was back here in the U.S.
In July of 1954, John returned to the States after his tour of duty, determined to do two things: pursue a music career and marry Vivian Liberto. Within a month, he wed 20-year-old Vivian and settled in Memphis, Tennessee, the perfect place for an aspiring artist. Memphis had become the cradle to the new musical wave sweeping America called rockabilly. Thanks to artists like Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, and Jerry Lee Lewis, Memphis was fast overtaking Nashville as the premier music city of the South.
The music that was coming out of Nashville at the time was somewhat, cosmopolitan, and kind of string-laden and beautiful, a little tamer. These guys down in Memphis, man, they started stepping on it.
Do anything but lay off of my blue suede shoes.
In 1955, Johnny's brother Roy introduced him to two amateur musicians, Marshall Grant and Luther Perkins, auto mechanics at the Chevrolet car dealership where Roy worked. The three became fast friends, getting together in their spare time to strum guitars and rehearse gospel and country songs. With Marshall on bass and Luther on lead guitar, they called themselves John Cash and the Tennessee Two. Together, they unwittingly created a signature sound that would define their music for years to come.
Hey Porter, would you tell me the time?
The first 8 bars that we ever played in our life, the sound that they say that made Johnny Cash famous, of the Tennessee Two, was there right then.
The sound of the Tennessee Two was really fundamental to what Cash was and what he became. It perfectly fit what Cash was trying to do, which is really present music with no frills.
That sound, however, was not putting food on John's table. To support his new wife, who was now expecting their first child, John took a job as a door-to-door appliance salesman, a job he disliked intensely. His heart and ambitions were in the music he was making with Marshall and Luther. Determined not to defer his dreams too long, John decided he would get an audition with Sun Records producer Sam Phillips by any means necessary. Early one morning, he positioned himself on the doorstep of Sun Records. Phillips arrived at 8:30 and met a man with a guitar and nothing to lose.
He said, yeah, come on in. I want to hear everything you got. And I was shocked. I said, you mean that? He said, yeah, come on in. I'm not doing anything. We'll have some coffee. Before we quit, I called Marshall and Luther and told them what I was doing, and they ran down. They closed down the shop.
When we finally got an audition with Sam Phillips, and we went in, if we had to depended on our ability to play these instruments like professional musicians, we would have never made it.
Despite their musical limitations, Sam Phillips was impressed with what he heard during the audition. He was immediately struck by Johnny's powerful voice.
He was just talking about this authority he had in his voice and how he could just pull people to him, you know.
Guys said, I like this. There's something about you guys. You know, you're not like everybody else. And they said, I like that.
'Cause when the lights have lost their glow, you cry, cry, cry.
Sam Phillips signed the trio and within days recorded a new song written by John. Cry, Cry, Cry was released on Sun Records in the summer of 1955. And for the first time, John was identified as Johnny Cash. The single was an instant hit.
The reason Johnny clicked so quickly is because there was no one else like him at the time.
We weren't professional musicians. We were two mechanics and an appliance salesman. And so, but the blend between John's old rough voice and his old awkward way of playing the guitar and me slapping the old bass, it just came together.
You can have horns and banging guitars and orchestras and everything else, but that powerful voice of his, powerful recording voice, just cuts through all of that.
In a matter of a few weeks, all of Johnny's dreams, professional and personal, were coming true. Happily married, Johnny and Vivian welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Roseanne. Also, Johnny was about to make his first major concert appearance in Memphis, a performance that would have lasting repercussions in his life.
Elvis was booked at the Overton Park show, and he asked me to come and sing a song on the show. So I did.
Vivian, proud wife and supporter, attended the happy occasion, but was horrified by what she saw.
Vivian saw how the girls reacted to Elvis and thought, quite logically and quite truthfully, that, well, if that's what goes on around Elvis, then that's the kind of thing that would go on around Johnny Cash.
Of course, Elvis was a young man and a single man, and that's all right, but John was a young, handsome, good-looking man, and her husband, she didn't like it.
The constant attention Johnny received from his female fans would become a major bone of contention between the two of them.
Of course, she didn't marry a star. She married a guy at the time they got married. He didn't even have a job.
She was very supportive of him the first few years he was into the music business. And then when he got so popular and was gone so much, it began to wear on her.
She didn't care much for the music business. She turned her back on it, and in doing that, I felt she was turning her back on me.
Despite Vivian's reservation about the music business, Johnny continued to pursue his dream. His next single, Folsom Prison Blues, was released in February 1956, and it too became a hit. Also written by Johnny, it was a song that offered a look into his darker, more rebellious side.
But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
In many ways, he's a master of fiction, and that shows up in a great many of his songs. I don't think ever really felt like shooting a man in Reno just to watch him die, but it was such a great image.
That's the line that really got to him, that dug deep. I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
I keep a close watch on the part of my...
March 1956 saw the release of another Cash composition, a song that would become a signature tune for Johnny and a country music classic, I Walk the Line. It sold 2 million copies, shot to #1 on the country chart, and gave Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Two their first crossover hit.
It's what we call a triple crown. It was #1 country, pop, and rock and roll.
It's a perfect country song in a sense. You hadn't seen a straight shooter like a Cash sing a song like that before.
It's not just the perfect country music song. I think it's a song that everybody can relate to.
After the success of I Walk the Line, Johnny Cash found himself a bona fide star. As his career began to soar, Vivian struggled with the growing amount of time Johnny spent away from home, as well as the constant female attention he received. In the summer of 1956, Johnny was invited to perform at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. There, he met an Opry performer named June Carter, daughter of Maybelle Carter of the famous Carter family.
I'm standing backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, and all of a sudden, he just walked up to me and took my hand, and he said, "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash."
I had always wanted to meet her, and there she was. She came off stage, and I walked up to her and I said, "You're June Carter?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "It's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm going to marry you someday."
He said it with such a sincerity that I couldn't ever forget looking at him. I couldn't forget ever seeing him.
I just knew it. I knew that someday we'd be married.
She loves you, Big River, more than me.
Johnny's career moved into high gear with pop hits like Ballad of a Teenage Queen, I Guess Things Happen That Way, and #1 country hits, Give My Love to Rose and Big River. By the fall of 1958, he left Tiny Sun Records and signed with a major label, CBS Columbia. His first Columbia album contained the #1 hit, Don't Take Your Guns to Town.
Don't take your guns to town, son, leave.
Johnny's change to Columbia Records coincided with 2 other alterations in his career. Drummer W.S. Holland was added, making them the Tennessee Three, and he moved his growing family from Memphis to Los Angeles.
We bought Johnny Carson's old house on Havenhurst Avenue. It had a swimming pool, was very California ranch, and I loved it. I thought this was great.
With half a dozen hits to his name, Johnny Cash and his small family began to enjoy the affluence his success had made possible. But the fragile facade of California bliss and prosperity would soon be shattered. Coming up, Johnny Cash begins a lifelong struggle with drugs.
And to be honest with you, I really thought he was going to die.
And later, Johnny slips into a deep coma and sees the light from the other side.
The very essence of light coming at me from like the other end of a tunnel.
When CMT Inside Fame continues.
Shania, Winona, Garth, Billy Ray, Brooks and Dunn, Dixie Chicks, and the premiere of Sheryl Crow. It's gotta be CMT's Inside Fame Marathon Weekend.
Screw you guys, you didn't believe in me.
CMT Inside Fame gets you closer to country that matters.
I will fail on my terms rather than succeed on other people's.
I could hear the words coming from somewhere.
CMT's Inside Fame Marathon. Get inside this weekend, starting Friday at 7, 6 Central.
I got duped. More ounces, less expensive. You think it's a better value, right?
Ultra Downy does 60 loads.
This one, doesn't say.
Will somebody please tell me how many loads are in this bottle?
So one bottle of Ultra Downy does almost 3 times as many loads.
Interesting. 1 bottle versus 3?
Ultra Downy's gonna save me money.
Try Ultra Downy. When you know the facts, it's easy to spot real value.
It's the reason we went for the 3-bedroom house. It's how I first knew Benjamin was coming.
The results of your pregnancy test are too important for anything less than EPT. It's 99% accurate. EPT, so accurate, we call it the error-proof test.
Mr. Goodwrench, who is this one and only GM expert? I gotta find this guy. You're Mr. Goodwrench?
Yep.
Which means you use genuine GM parts.
Well, actually, we all do.
Now you're just trying to throw me. Mr. Goodwrench had over 1 million hours of GM training last year?
That's right.
Doesn't leave much time for Mrs. Goodwrench now, does it?
Find Mr. Goodwrench at over 7,000 GM dealerships nationwide.
If Mr. Goodwrench were a tool, what kind of tool would he be?
A wrench?
Ooh, sorry, miter saw is what we were looking for. Miter saw.
Here at the house to keep the phones from all my ads. On this one, I made a great collect call. I just dialed in the center with 1-800-CALLATT.
It's free for you.
Cheap for them. Of course, I did win an award. Best dialing.
Save on every call. Dial 1-800-CALL-ATT for collect calls.
Want to build weak hair stronger in just 10 days? Try Pantene Pro V for unbeatable strength. The Pantene Pro Vitamin formula fortifies root to tip, making hair up to 80% stronger against breakage in 10 days, guaranteed. That's mighty strong. Weak, broken hair was so 10 days ago. Pantene Strength. That's the beauty of health.
At the trial of the century, the world waits while the jury deliberates.
So, like I said, now it comes in spearmint.
Another flavor of Listerine pocket packs?
I love spearmint.
What a great new taste.
Spearmint.
It's called Fresh Burst.
And it kills 99% of germs.
Yeah. I love spearmint.
Order. The jury needs more Fresh Burst Listerine pocket packs.
New Fresh Burst Listerine pocket pack strips. New spearmint flavor, same germ-killing power. Kill the germs. Feel the clean.
1-800-CONTACTS is the world's largest contact lens store. With 20 million contacts in stock and 100,000 shipped every day. You'll get delivery right away. Call 1-800-CONTACTS. We deliver. You save.
Shouldn't shaving be, well, simpler? Now it is, with the new Schick Intuition. It's a triple blade razor, surrounded by a unique skin conditioning solid with just water. Intuition lathers and shaves in one step so easy, it makes the process of shaving as smooth as the results. Schick Intuition. Your intuition.
There's a story in our town of the prettiest girl around. Golden hair and eyes of blue.
By the fall of 1958, Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Three were enjoying success beyond their wildest dreams. With a new record label, Columbia CBS, and a swanky new address in Los Angeles, Johnny Cash's career was soaring. But privately, Johnny's marriage to Vivian was on the rocks. The long absences from home were taking their toll.
I know it was really challenging for my mom. My mother was not raised to know anything about this kind of life.
Along with the strain of his marriage, the strain of stardom was beginning to weigh heavily on Johnny. He began to rely on amphetamines and barbiturates mixed with alcohol to alleviate the stress of touring for weeks on end.
He got into them pretty seriously. He was an addict from the start.
The pills got a better hold of John. Things started going down. And things were very, very, very rocky.
He would come in off the road and be strung out. And she would go to bed, and he would, and she would wake up in the morning and find him in the den, still awake. He hadn't been to sleep.
A lot of anxiety around my house, and, you know, my parents' marriage was falling apart.
While Johnny's personal life was falling apart, his career continued to thrive. By 1961, he had expanded his successful roadshow to include the Statler brothers, Carl Perkins, and Mother Maybelle Carter and the Carter family. The chemistry between Johnny and Mother Maybelle's daughter, June, was as strong as it had been 5 years earlier.
When I would introduce her and she'd come out, she would dance out. And it was like she would float out there, and it would make my heart lighter.
But I was scared. Every time I saw him, I was scared. He was married, and I was married to somebody else, and the only thing to do was run. There was Mother Maybelle, and there was my sisters, and you couldn't just exactly do what you might have done in this day and age.
June was not having a happy home life with her husband. She was on the road with Johnny Cash, and I was on the road with Johnny Cash in '62, and everybody could tell they were really falling for each other.
June Carter was falling for Johnny right along with the rest of America. Soon his influence began to extend well beyond the world of popular music. His ever-increasing popularity allowed Johnny to address social concerns.
I wear the black for the poor and the beaten down.
Almost alone among country stars during the 60s, he took the side of the social justice movements, of the prisoners, of the Indians, of the downtrodden, of the student protesters.
He's one of those people that feels like if you're not going to say what's on your mind, why bother saying anything?
Or listen to the words that Jesus said.
Johnny also used his newfound influence to champion prisoners' rights. To underscore his concern and to show support for men behind bars, he began performing at penitentiaries. At one such performance, a 21-year-old inmate named Merle Haggard sat in the audience.
He didn't have any voice at all. He'd been, and he was real honest with the guys. He said, I've been partying all night long, New Year's Eve partying. Well, they liked that about him, when he told them the truth about that.
Most people would be intimidated by a crowd like that, but for some reason, Johnny's always felt a bond to the prisoners, and when he was there, he actually became one of them.
The charismatic spell that he placed on those men at that prison was something to witness.
However, by 1965, Johnny's use of amphetamines had become a raging addiction. His behavior became erratic and dangerous. All his relationships were threatened, including his 10-year marriage to Vivian.
His behavior was so strange, and he didn't come home, and this kind of dark, frenetic energy, and you couldn't really reach him or talk to him or find him in that.
He shook, he trembled. He was occasionally prone to hallucinations.
There's a Bill Monroe song I sang when I was a kid called You're Drifting Away. You're drifting away, you're drifting away. On down the dark river, I'm sorry to say. That's what happened to me in real life.
Despite his growing problems, Johnny soldiered on with his career. Nothing seemed able to stifle his determination or his success.
He continued to have hit records. He continued to draw big crowds to his concerts. He continued to grow and strengthen popularity all over the world. And there were times when I saw him, I didn't think he would be able to get dressed, let alone do anything. But he did.
As Johnny's marriage to Vivian became more troubled, the smoldering attraction between Johnny and June started to reveal itself.
Love is a burning thing.
June, by now divorced from her second husband, expressed her feelings for Johnny in a song she co-wrote with Merle Kilgore called Ring of Fire.
It was about the way I felt about John. That song just was a part of me. It was fire, and there was such a joy to it, such a fire that I couldn't get out of. It just sometimes went down so low that I thought I would die, and lifted me up so many times that I thought the fire would never go out. Until that point in time, I'd never said it out loud. I kept it to myself. And at that time, it just, it needed saying.
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
Although her feelings for Johnny were becoming stronger and stronger, June was disturbed by his bizarre behavior.
Being in hotels and dropping wastebaskets of water on arriving guests and dropping eggs on arriving guests.
My dad was crazy. He was the prototypical rock star on the road. You know, I heard all the stories, TVs going out of windows.
There were a lot of good-natured, youthful hijinks. There were also just some really ugly stuff. And what it was about was expressing rage.
Johnny's rage became evident one night at the Grand Ole Opry in 1966. He was in the middle of a long binge on pills and alcohol when he took the stage. His attitude was defiant and dangerous.
Somebody had got on him about his performance, that he was drinking or whatever. And he said, well, this is going to be my last performance on the Grand Ole Opry. I'm going to go off big.
He just took the mic stand with that thing, the pedestal on the bottom, and well, knocked all the lights out.
And maybe he thought that kind of thing had gotten to be expected of him, and he was angry about that. I mean, he was an angry man, very angry man.
Johnny's inexplicable behavior shocked the conservative Opry audience and horrified Opry executives. Opry manager Ott Devine made it clear to Johnny's handlers that he was no longer welcome.
He said, "Marshal?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Get him out and don't bring him back." I said, "Yes, sir."
Furious and embarrassed, Johnny stormed out of the theater.
He ended up smashing into a utility pole head on in the Cadillac, smashing his face into the wheel, driving his teeth up through his upper lip, and breaking his nose.
A few months later, after a show in El Paso, Texas, Johnny took another unwise excursion. He slipped across the border into Mexico, hoping to score some cheap amphetamines. When he returned, a search of his guitar case at the airport turned up hundreds of illegal pills. He was arrested and charged with drug possession. The image he had spent years constructing was steadily falling to pieces.
Audiences and other people, record people, and began to realize that John Cash was in trouble with drugs. I feared for what was ahead. And to be honest with you, I really thought he was going to die.
Coming up, Johnny Cash considers ending it all.
I lay down on the floor of the cave, and I said, "God, take me away."
And later, Johnny expands his horizons and pushes politics to the edge.
He was never afraid to stand up for what he believed in.
When CMT Inside Fame continues. A testosterone-fueled hour of hillbilly rock returns to CMT. TV Guide states Hank and Kid cross the musical divide, and the Indianapolis Star gets it 3.5 out of 4 stars.
Family tradition.
Catch an encore presentation of this entertaining hour-long mutual admiration society. CMT Crossroads with Hank Williams Jr. and Kid Rock. Wednesday at 6, 5 Central on CMT. Brought to you by Volkswagen.
They said its off-road capabilities verged on overkill. Tow rag. They said others may be as quick, capable, and handle as sharply, but few can match it on all of the above.
Tow rag.
They said it was everything you could want in a luxury SUV, but for 20 grand less. In fact, the only thing the experts couldn't say was the name.
Touareg.
Introducing the Touareg, easily named Car and Driver's Best Luxury SUV for 2003.
A decade of hits, 11 #1 singles, over 15 million albums sold. This is the very best of John Michael Montgomery.
I'm going twice, I'm sold on the lady in the second row.
All of John Michael Montgomery's biggest hits together for the first time ever on one CD.
Life's a dance, you learn as you go. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. I swear, by the moon and the stars in the sky, if you got love, you can move a mountain, little bit.
The very best of John Michael Montgomery. 20 of your favorite tracks, including 2 brand new exclusive tracks you won't find anywhere else. Just $18.98 plus $4.95 shipping and handling for one CD. Call now and get this CD opener free with your paid order.
I can love you like that. I would make you my world, move heaven and earth, if you were mine.
Also includes the heartwarming The Little Girl.
Behind their couch, she'd be hiding. Oh, what a sad little lie. But I love the way you love me till nothing comes between us.
This is the one John Michael Montgomery CD you've gotta have. The very best of John Michael Montgomery. 20 tracks, over an hour of music, one CD for one great price. Order now.
Would you, ain't you gonna, if I ask you, would you wanna be my baby tonight?
To order the best of John Michael Montgomery, call the number on your screen or send $18.98 plus $4.95 shipping and handling to the address shown. Call now.
If you're in for a haul, Southern Tier Trailer Sales can help. They can hook you up with a trailer to fit your needs. Sales, service, parts, accessories, rentals, they have it all from large to small. Southern Tier Trailer Sales is the area's only authorized Bobcat sales, service, and rental center. With the selection of attachments available, a Bobcat may be just what you need for your next job. So the next time you need to move or haul just about anything, call or visit the experts at Southern Tier Trailer Sales, 4018 North Main Street Extension, Jamestown. Call 985-4600.
Time Warner Digital Cable gives you the power to control movies. The Candidate.
What are your plans for Social Security? Give it to old people. You the man. You the woman.
The Running Mate.
Hi, I'm with the Port Commission.
Join the political party instantly. And with movies on demand, there's no tapes to return or late fees to pay. Chris Rock, Bernie Mac.
It's off the hizzle for shizzle.
Order Head of State for only $3.95 and control it for up to 24 hours. iControl from Time Warner Digital Cable.
And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away.
By the mid-1960s, Johnny Cash had become a folk hero in America. His music had transcended his country roots, thrusting the 33-year-old artist into superstar status. His voice had captured the spirit of idealism and rebellion that characterized the 60s. However, Johnny's fame was marred by a serious and dangerous addiction to drugs. Run-ins with the law and unseemly behavior on stage caused those closest to him to fear for his safety and his health.
It got to the point to where his weight loss was tremendous, and that he had become real thin and skinny and lanky, and I began to fear for his life.
Nothing but leather and bones. He looks like a skeleton, you know, pasted over with skin. He was just a few heartbeats away from death.
Johnny's wife, Vivian, had had enough. After 7 years of single parenting and Johnny's drug-induced madness, she filed for divorce in August of 1967. With his marriage in ruins and his addiction to drugs completely out of control, Johnny was at the end of his rope. He stumbled into a cave adjacent to Nickajack Lake outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, with no intention of ever coming out.
He was all pilled up and just tired of it, and he said he crawled in the cave to die.
And I turned around, and the light got smaller and smaller, and the darkness got darker and darker. So was my spiritual life at the time. I lay down on the floor of the cave, and I said, God, take me away.
As Johnny waited for death in the cold, damp darkness of Nickajack Cave, he began to feel a mysterious warmth.
And I lay there for a long time before I felt that warm presence, that all-knowing presence, that sweet presence that said, get up and get out of here. I'm not ready for you to die yet.
As friends began to search for him, faced with life or death, he made his choice. Johnny Cash resolved to find a way out of the darkness.
It was so dark he didn't know which way to go. But then he finally figured, he started going where there was the least amount of resistance.
They found me at the mouth of that cave. And I walked out of there.
I truly think God saved his life that day.
Then he came out of that cave, and his life was different after that.
With the help of Dr. Nat Winston, a friend of June Carter's, Johnny began an excruciating month-long process of substance withdrawal to turn his life around.
He recovered quite quickly. He was a strong man, had a lot to live for, had a career that was still salvageable, and had a new faith.
Johnny got very religious, and that was really at June's insistence. I think she showed him back to the Lord.
Well, he was trying to find his way, I think. I just never did let go.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
In January 1968, clean and sober for the first time in 7 years, a revitalized Johnny Cash played a triumphant live performance for an audience of prisoners at Folsom Prison in California. Recorded as a live album, Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison shot to #1, and Johnny Cash was bigger than ever.
I think Folsom Prison is the best live country album, if not the best live album of all time.
And his career exploded all over again. I mean, he became a bigger star in '68 than he had been back in '59.
With his career back on track and his health restored, there was one more thing Johnny desired for his new life. In February 1968, on stage in London, Ontario, before an audience of thousands, Johnny proposed to June.
I stopped right in the middle of the song. I said, June, will you marry me? And she said, sing, John, sing. Sing. No.
It wasn't that I didn't like it. It was just that I was embarrassed, you know.
And the audience started saying, yes.
And there I was. I kept saying, please sing. Somebody please sing. And Mother, please play the Wildwood Flower. That's all I knew to say.
And finally she had to say yes.
The following month, on March 1st, 1968, Johnny and June were married in a small ceremony in Franklin, Kentucky. The prediction Johnny had made when he first met June in 1956 came true.
But I know when he fell in love with June that it was all over for any other woman in his life.
They were just inseparable, you know. I mean, it was just like they were meant to be together.
You feel like you've really met your soulmate and nobody else will ever do?
After a brief time off to allow June to settle into Johnny's lakeside home outside Nashville, the happy couple continued a heavy touring schedule. Unfortunately, 6 months later, Johnny received news that sent him reeling. On August 5th, 1968, Luther Perkins, 14-year friend and the guitarist whose playing style defined the sound of the Tennessee Three, passed away. He died from burns received in a fire at his home.
Oh man, it was so devastating. It was so devastating because Luther Perkins can never be given enough credit for the success of Johnny Cash in Tennessee 2. We lost Luther, we lost it all. We were standing at Luther's grave just after the burial, and everybody just stepped back and let him have a moment by himself there at the grave. And I remember I overheard him say, "Thank you, Luther."
I think there was a moment when he thought, well, I can't go on, you know. How am I going to do this without Luther?
Sadly, the career momentum made possible with Luther's help would continue without him.
The album of the year, Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison.
I would like to say, first of all, thanks to the people that help support me to make this possible, to Luther Perkins especially. Thank you.
Johnny Cash and the Tennessee Three continued on, with Bob Wooten replacing Luther a few months later. In his late 30s, Cash's place in American history was already secure as a singer, songwriter, entertainer, and folk hero. Then in 1969, as if to top himself, Johnny recorded his biggest single ever in a live concert at San Quentin, a song he had never sung before.
I took the words to San Quentin, and at some point in the show, I put the words on the music stand, and I told him I wanted to sing a song that I had just received called "The Boy Named Sue." Well, the title itself got a wave of applause.
My name is Sue. How do you do? How you gonna die?
I mean, he sings "Boy Named Sue," you know. How do you do? Now you're gonna die, and you hear those guys screaming, and it just gives you chills, you know.
A Boy Named Sue stayed at the top of the pop charts for 4 straight weeks. Johnny was the hottest act in the world. In 1969, he would win 5 Country Music Association awards, including Entertainer of the Year, and sell more than 6.5 million records, more than any other American artist. But 1969 would also see Johnny embark upon a new venture that would take him to even greater popularity. Coming up, Johnny Cash introduces network television to country cool.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash. You darn right you are. You can be anybody you want to, buddy.
And later, the unpredictable Cash confounds the experts.
The initial reaction on Music Row was sort of disbelief at first, followed by a sort of sense that, well, Johnny's lost it.
When CMT Inside Fame continues.
I'm Tara McNamara with a CMT News Break. In an attempt to stop internet piracy, the Recording Industry Association of America is suing hundreds for copyright infringement. The Associated Press reports the RIAA has filed suit against 261 individuals for illegally downloading and sharing vast amounts of music.
The music is simply not going to be created unless we take some action to protect the rights of the people who create it.
Several country artists have joined the fight to stop illegal internet file sharing.
Getting music the right way means that there will be new music, new artists, touring, everything that fans love.
We'd like to see the next Brooks and Dunn get a chance.
Forget me, I'll go out and I'll work on the road and I'm going to make me some money. But
what about all the people that work from 8 to 5 every day for this company, and publishers around town, manufacturers? That's who you're taking money from, is your neighbor.
For more on the RIAA lawsuit, go to CMT.com.
There was something about Tim McGraw.
Tim's life is really a Cinderella story.
He had vision and drive.
That boy's never going to let anybody knock him down.
Even with struggles.
He said, I just need somebody that I can call Dad.
And setbacks.
So I told him he couldn't sing.
No one wants to be rejected.
Nothing could stop this country boy from being a superstar. Hear the stories from the people who know him best. Driven, Tim McGraw. Monday night at 8, 7 Central on CMT.
My hair color does something yours doesn't. Because it's new Garnier Nutrice, the only hair color that nourishes with grapeseed and avocado oils. Rich, radiant color, all because Nutrice means nourish. So hair takes color better and holds it longer, root to tip. And speaking of color, nourished hair means better color. And grays? Gone. Guaranteed. Can your hair color do all that? New Garnier Nutrice. Nourished hair, better color. Garnier, trust them. They're experts.
The Kia Sedona. It's the minivan with the government's highest safety rating and the lowest price. Now get the Kia Sedona starting at $17,615 after $3,000 cash back.
It's the reason we went for the 3-bedroom house.
It's how we knew life could change in an instant.
It's how I knew I could take the job out west.
The results of your pregnancy test are too important to depend on anything less than EPT. Nothing is more accurate. EPT is 99% accurate, and its unique design makes it easy to determine what your future holds.
It's how I first knew Benjamin was coming.
EPT. So accurate, we call it the error-proof test.
Turn up the heat with new Dentyne Fire. This is no ordinary gum. Ruby red shell outside, intensely cinnamon inside. It's new. It's cinnamon. It sizzles. New Dentyne Fire. Spark something. Oh, it's great.
You're invited to a streaking party, and it's going to be the highlight of the year. Introducing Herbal Essences Highlights. With our unique highlighting comb for perfectly spaced highlights. And our one-of-a-kind color guide formula shows you exactly where those gorgeous streaks will appear. So now you can get what you want, where you want it.
Hi! Is this the streaking party?
New Herbal Essences Highlights.
Once you were dry. I made you juicy. You were weak. And I made you beefy. You were bland. I made you tasty. Lee and Barrett, the Burger Booster.
Our cover girl on her wedding day said, I won't wear lipstick that wears away. Outlast All Day Lip Color goes 8 hours without reapplying. The color coat sets in a minute. The moisture coat shines and helps protect. From kiss to cake, there's no denying. 34 shades, 0 reapplying. Your color stays so loyal and true. Do you love this wear? I do, I do. Outlast all day, even all this day lip color from Easy Breezy Beautiful Cover Girl.
I'll be right back. Who on earth wears white during their period? Girls who use Tampax Pearl. Extraordinary protection, a revolutionary absorbent braid, and form-fitting widthwise expansion. Get Pearl, wear white. End of story.
Hotter than a pepper sprout. We've been talking about Jackson.
By 1969, Johnny Cash's life had turned around. He had overcome his addiction to drugs, married June Carter, and enjoyed his greatest recording success with 2 landmark albums, Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison and Johnny Cash at San Quentin, which included his biggest single ever, A Boy Named Sue. Enjoying a new lease on life, he and June took their extremely successful touring show across America and around the world.
Everywhere without fail, no matter how big the buildings were, didn't make no difference. It was totally sold out.
Johnny Cash was everywhere. I mean, Johnny Cash was everywhere in the world. He was as big a star as anybody.
Johnny Cash also conquered the television airwaves in 1969 with the debut of his very own primetime variety show on ABC. The show was a huge success, top billing on ABC's program lineup, and its content and style were decidedly Johnny Cash.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
When that show started up, I mean, I still see it clearly in my head. And brother, there was just something, I mean, it would almost make you get cold chills just watching this guy because he had so much charisma.
Total macho male type of the sound is Johnny Cash. You know, hello, I'm Johnny Cash. You darn right you are. You can be anybody you want to, buddy.
I said my name is Sue. How do you do?
Johnny broke down musical and political boundaries by featuring guests from many different genres, a testament to Johnny's diverse musical tastes.
I told the producers that I would do a TV show, a network show, if I could put on a show who I wanted to. They asked me who I wanted, and I said Bob Dylan, Doug Kershaw, Pete Seeger. They said, why all these people? I said, why not all these people?
And there were guests like Liza Minnelli and Bob Dylan and Andy Williams. I mean, it really crossed all lines of interest. And John had a great rapport with everybody.
Many songwriters considered it an honor to perform for Johnny, largely because of his supportive nature and his respect for artistic integrity. This was never more evident than in 1969, when Johnny was scheduled to sing a song written by good friend Chris Christopherson. As Johnny rehearsed the song entitled Sunday Morning Comin' Down for his live TV show, ABC censors raised objections to a drug reference in the lyrics.
They were trying to get him to change the lyrics in it because in the chorus it says, on the Sunday morning sidewalks, wishing, Lord, that I was stoned. And they didn't want us to say stoned on the television.
The debate as to how the lyrics should be changed continued right up until showtime. A dejected Christopherson went to watch in the balcony as the time for Johnny's performance of his song drew near.
John never said a word, and I was up in the balcony there at the Ryman Auditorium when he was going to sing the song.
When I got to that line, I thought, well, Chris wrote the song this way, and this is the way I'm going to do it.
I'm wishing, Lord, that I was stoned.
But the fact that he didn't tell anybody and then did it just the way that I wrote it, gratitude is an understatement.
Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true?
At a time when middle America was frowning upon the hippie youth culture, Johnny embraced it. Time after time, he broke rank with common assumptions and embraced a broad range of friends and ideas.
Is it possible to be a conservative, patriotic, Christian, liberal dope smoker? Yes, it is.
This is a guy that hung with Bob Dylan and Richard Nixon at the same time.
In Vietnam, he was singing What is Truth, you know, and seeking to understand these kids who thought there was something wrong with the war.
And it didn't really matter if the truth was there. It was the cut of his clothes and the length of his hair. And the
Cash also took a very public stance about his personal faith, even appearing at Billy Graham crusades.
Johnny and June Cash.
We became part of that group, that small group that went with Billy Graham and did what Billy Graham did. We felt like we were doing something. We felt like we were letting the world know there was another way.
He was never afraid to stand up for what he believed in, and ultimately I think that's one of the things that just sort of fueled the image. It added to this bigger-than-life character.
As a further statement of his religious convictions, Johnny began devoting part of his stage show to prayer.
He actually had a minister on stage who would have an altar call at the end of the concerts, and, you know, we always thought that was a bit odd, but, you know, again, only Johnny Cash can pull something like that off.
I wasn't locked into those record sales to survive. I was locked into things a little higher.
To the world, Johnny Cash was an imposing musical legend and influential world figure. Privately, Johnny longed for a second chance at the simpler role of fatherhood. Although he had fathered 4 daughters with Vivian, Roseanne, Cindy, Tara, and Kathy, he was absent for much of their childhood. By the early 1970s, he had welcomed them back into his life.
He was a better father when I was 15 than he was when I was 10. And it was beautiful. He taught me to water ski. We'd go to 4 movies in a day sometimes. He hand make ice cream for us. He was wonderful.
He loves them all dearly, and he's always been on their side through thick and thin, through good times and bad. He's always been there for them.
With 6 daughters between them, Johnny and June hoped for a boy when it was announced that June was expecting. In March of 1970, June gave birth to John's first and only son, John Carter Cash.
We prayed for a son, and God gave us a son. And we couldn't be more happy.
The instant that John Carter was born, John's life turned a complete flip-flop as far as his outlook is concerned. He was so elated. He was so happy. And John Carter traveled with us an awful lot.
He started traveling with them when he was a babe in arms almost. And when he got old enough, he would come out on stage and sing or maybe just wave, depending upon what age he was.
Growing up with them, I mean, had a wonderful opportunity to travel a lot and spend time with them. And we were like a gypsy traveling family out there on the road.
Running in and out of airports and him on top of his daddy's back, flying, and we'd meet people going. Paul McCartney would meet us this way with his family. Hello, John. Hello, June. And here he'd come with his troop, and away we'd go.
After the Johnny Cash Show wrapped up its second and final season in 1971, Johnny, June, and John Carter spent the next several years touring around the world. Although Johnny's record sales began to decline in comparison to the 60s, his ticket sales were as strong as ever.
He was always popular. He always was able to work. His crowds never fell off.
Johnny will always be huge on the road. People are devoted to him.
Nothing seemed able to dim the public's adulation of Johnny Cash. In 1980, Johnny's peers formally expressed their admiration of him with the ultimate tribute.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Country Music Hall of Fame welcomes Mr. Johnny Cash.
At the age of 48, Johnny Cash became the youngest living inductee into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
And I'd like to also say this to all the new artists, that if you're concerned about competition, don't write me off yet, because my dad, Ray Cash, is sitting here tonight. He's 83 years old, and if God lets me live that long, that's 35 more years that I'm going to be out there singing country songs.
During the 1980s, Johnny and June began to spend more time in the tropical sunshine of the Caribbean and their beloved second home, Cinnamon Hill, a 250-year-old estate in Montego Bay, Jamaica.
He has an amazing, great house there, an old 18th century sugar plantation that I love more than anything.
It's really a place of healing, a place of the heart, a place where, my parents go to restore themselves.
On Christmas Day, 1982, however, Cinnamon Hill turned into a place of terror. Johnny, June, and the family were in the midst of offering a prayer for Christmas dinner when 4 masked men rushed into the house with weapons drawn.
One had a hatchet, and one had a knife, and one had a gun.
The first thing I heard any of them say was, somebody's going to die here tonight.
They were screaming vulgarities and telling us all to get down on the floor.
One of them said, we want $2 million cash tonight.
Johnny informed them he had no money in the house. This information seemed to anger the ringleader. He turned his attention to 12-year-old John Carter.
They had me stand up and say, if these people don't get so much amount of money, that I'm going to die.
He had John Carter by the throat like this with this knife right under his right here under his chin.
There's no describing that feeling of, wait a second, this is reality. There are people here that have guns and are threatening to kill me.
Frustrated by the lack of money on the property, the burglars began a systematic search of everything and everyone.
And then it's when a chill went over me. There's never been a man felt any more violated as I was at that moment when my wife was taken away and my son had a gun at the back of his head.
After 4 hours of continual threats and intimidation, the thieves concluded there was nothing of real value in the house. At that point, they forced everyone into the basement.
Well, they took us down first and then brought the turkey down, put it in there with us, and then locked the door.
The intruders left, and after several hours, the captives broke out of their basement prison. The long night of terror was over with no real injuries to anyone. The perpetrators were ultimately apprehended and punished. However, the break-in seemed to signal a shift in Johnny's fortunes. Despite all his past successes and all the honors lavished upon him, he became, like any artist, vulnerable to the whim of change. In fact, the 1980s would be a time of disappointment and frustration. Nashville's recording industry was about to do the unthinkable, toss Johnny Cash aside. Coming up, an insult to the man in black shocks Nashville.
I knew it hurt him deeply.
Obviously, it was a slap in the face.
And later, a nervous Johnny Cash puts everything on the line.
Johnny said, "Here I am with my guitar. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I'm scared to death."
When CMT Inside Fame returns.
Shania, Winona, Garth, Billy Ray, Brooks and Dunn, Dixie Chicks, and the premiere of Sheryl Crow. It's gotta be CMT's Inside Fame Marathon Weekend.
Screw you guys, you didn't believe in me.
CMT Inside Fame gets you closer to country that matters.
I will fail on my terms rather than succeed on other people's.
I could hear the words coming from somewhere.
CMT's Inside Fame Marathon. Get inside this weekend, starting Friday at 7, 6 Central.
For the first time on DVD, Bionicle comes to life. You can prepare for a journey beyond your imagination. The Mask of Light has chosen you. Plus, special bonus features, including deleted scenes from the movie, an exploration of Matanui with the Bionicle characters, and a sneak peek at what's next in the world of Bionicle. Bionicle, Mask of Light, the movie. Rated PG on DVD this Tuesday.
Women are taking Haynes her way, places we've never been before. Tonight, we'll ask the babysitter to stay late. We'll celebrate 10-year anniversaries and very first jobs. Tonight, we'll go to a restaurant we can't afford. Tonight, we'll stop him dead in his tracks. The new Body Creations collection from Haynes Her Way. Where will you take us?
What's new about Ziploc freezer bags? Tired of throwing away freezer-burned food? The new improved Ziploc freezer bag can help. Our unique Freeze Guard seal has an extra thick layer of plastic right where you want it the most, at the seal. Ziploc freezer bags help keep freshness in and freezer burn out.
Hi, Pam. You cooking out too?
The improved Ziploc freezer bag, now with the Freeze Guard seal. Redesigned with you in mind. S.C. Johnson, a family company.
Baby. Come on.
Growing up can be hard. Kleenex tissues are now mercifully softer than ever. Thank goodness for Kleenex tissue.
Now you can actually make pores look smaller. Neutrogena Pore Refining Cleanser. Microbeads and alpha hydroxys exfoliate. Beta hydroxys clean deep into every pore, making pores look smaller. The smaller your pores look, the more beautiful your skin looks. Neutrogena Pore Refining Cleanser.
T-Rex.
Oh, yeah, that's a T-Rex.
Science, will you hold my hand the whole time?
No problem. You got it, buddy. Sure.
You've been there, on your period, and you know it's going to be a while before you can change your pads. A long while. That's why Always Maxi's extra absorbent layer helps lock wetness deep in the middle. Even hours later, Always is cleaner, drier than the next leading brand's regular Maxi. It'll last as long as you do.
Next!
Protecting all women, always.
I got duped. More ounces, less expensive. You think it's a better value, right?
Ultra Downy does 60 loads.
This one, doesn't say.
Will somebody please tell me how many loads are in this bottle?
So one bottle of Ultra Downy does almost 3 times as many loads.
Interesting. 1 bottle versus 3?
Ultra Downy's gonna save me money.
Try Ultra Downy. When you know the facts, it's easy. Time Warner Digital Cable gives you the power to control movies.
According to this, your daughter. The girl must stay here with us.
She's trying to fit in, but wants to stand out.
Thank you, London!
Get what you want right now with your Time Warner remote.
Thank you so much, Lady Dashwood.
No hugs, dear. I'm British.
Order what a girl wants for only $3.95 and control it for up to 24 hours. Eye control from Time Warner Digital Cable.
Get to the point. Bemis Point.
the casino has a newly renovated historic ballroom that can accommodate up to 500 people and provide everything you need to make your wedding or special event perfect. From outstanding catering with a full bar to gorgeous lakefront views, we are here to serve you. Just downstairs from our beautiful ballroom, the casino is cooking up great lunches, casual waterfront dinners, or late-night snacks. With music every night and live performances on Fridays and Saturdays, the casino is here for your enjoyment. Get to the point. Bemis Point.
Now.
Well, I taught the weeping willow how to cry, and I showed the clouds how to cover up a clear blue sky.
A successful network TV show, huge record sales, and a rise to superstar status marked the 1970s for Johnny Cash. In 1980, at age 48, Johnny became the youngest living person ever inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. After 25 years in the business, his impact had been enormous.
He made country music something it had never been before. I mean, he's electrifying. He's the man in black.
There's very few artists that are completely original like him. He defined who he is, and his music, that's definitively him. You know it the second you hear it. There's nobody else that's like him.
While Johnny and June continued to tour across America and the world, Johnny's oldest daughter, Roseanne, was establishing herself as a worthy heir to the Cash legacy. Her breakthrough 1981 album, 7 Year Ache, made her one of Nashville's hottest new young artists.
Tell me you're trying to cure a 7-year ache. I've been so proud of her. She's made me feel so good and so worthy to have been given what I've been given, that I just love her to death.
Carlene Carter, June's oldest daughter, was also making her talent known during the 1980s.
Carlene is the epitome of a country performer. She is one of the most powerful performers that I've ever seen.
The rise of Johnny's daughters, while certainly making him proud, also held a more ominous meaning for Johnny Cash. Now in his 50s, a new generation of younger artists were taking center stage in country music. Johnny's record sales began to decline even more, and he found himself pushed off country radio's playlists.
It got to where the things that he was doing, weren't what the record company wanted. And he wasn't doing it to please anybody. He was just doing his own thing.
And he would make his records and send them down here, and they would kind of grimace and say, meh. And they were operating from two separate planets.
Johnny, however, did manage an occasional home run. In 1985, he teamed up with fellow artists Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and Waylon Jennings for Highwayman, Johnny's first single in 9 years to go to #1.
Or I may simply be a single drop of rain, but I will remain.
The Highwaymen toured extensively in the later 80s, and the enthusiastic response of the public to the four-legend mega group contributed to a revival of interest in Johnny's classic music. However, even the success of the Highwaymen couldn't change the downward momentum of Johnny's career. In 1986, to the shock of fans and industry executives alike, Johnny Cash's label, Columbia CBS, unceremoniously dropped him after 25 years.
One of the stupidest moves ever made in the entire history of recorded music.
It was a slap in the face. Obviously, it was an insult.
That's something you don't do. You keep Bill Monroe, you keep Johnny Cash, you keep Willie Nelson, you keep the people who built this industry, this music.
Here's a man who had sold millions and millions and millions of records and been Columbia Records' top seller at times for many years in a row. I just think that he felt abandoned and hurt.
It did hurt. There was a good relationship I had with Columbia. I had some good friends there, some good people that did a lot for me, and needless to say, I did a lot for them.
As he struggled to find his voice in a new music world that didn't appreciate him, Johnny's life was further complicated by the discovery of congestive heart disease. He underwent an emergency bypass operation in 1988. After the surgery, Johnny slipped into a coma. As he hovered between life and death, he had a vision of the other side.
And I remember looking at that light, seeing that light in my eye, in my mind, that unearthly light, not just the light, but the very essence of light coming at me from like the other end of a tunnel. I wanted to move toward the light. I wanted the light to move toward me. And we did, and moved closer to it, and closer to it. As I got closer to it, it started to dim. And I woke up, and there's my doctor's face.
I think that it just wasn't his time, but he went out there far enough to get in contact with, the real thing.
And I cried. I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to. I'm glad I did. I want to now, but at the time I didn't want to come back.
Following an extensive recuperation at his home in Jamaica, the next few years saw Johnny honored in a host of career achievement awards. In 1991, he was honored with the prestigious Grammy Legend Award.
The good times, though, have outweighed the bad through the years, and if legend fits, I'm very happy with it.
In 1992, at the age of 60, he was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones, a huge Cash fan, paid homage to Johnny in his own way.
We were going down to the toilets, and I was walking beside him, and he realized that he and I were walking together, and he said, "Hey, somebody get a camera. I'm going to the toilet with Johnny Cash."
Celebrated as a living legend and showered with accolades and adulation, it all seemed to mark the final chapter in a fantastic career. But Johnny Cash was still an artist in his soul. As he entered the winter of his life, he still longed to express himself as a recording artist. He tried a brief career with Mercury Records, but little came of the relationship.
He was making records, but the records weren't being promoted, and it was a dead-end street.
He had perhaps lost his way in a sense and was putting faith in some people he shouldn't have.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I didn't know what to do with my music. I hadn't known for a long time what to do with it.
Coming up, Johnny Cash stuns Music City.
This is what a real artist looks like. Real art goes on forever.
When CMT Inside Fame continues.
Luttrell, Tennessee, population 865. Neyland Stadium, Knoxville, population 61,000 screaming fans. Kenny Chesney comes home in a big way. 90 minutes of cutting-edge Kenny, personal footage, backstage moments in the year's most revealing concert event, all in stunning high-definition video. He left with big dreams. Now, Kenny Chesney returns home a big star. Kenny Chesney, Back Where I Come From. Tuesday night at 8, 7 Central on CMT.
So I'm watching TV last night, and I see my 1010-987 commercials come on, and I call my mom. I call 1010-987-1, my mom's number. Instantly, I'm connected. She complains to me for 15 minutes because I don't call her enough. So call your mother and get nagged at for 3 cents a minute and 39 cents to connect, and then it automatically comes on your regular phone bill. It's so simple, I'm telling you. There's no monthly fee, nothing to sign up for, no operators, no nothing. I didn't have to talk to anybody. None of that stuff. 1010-987, do it. Call your mom. My mother is going to kill me if she sees this.
As far as allergies go, I'm a ragweed grass cat dander who met a cat person. But my allergy medicine wasn't approved for the cat dander, so I asked my doctor about Zyrtec.
Is your allergy medicine treating your indoor and outdoor allergies? Unlike some allergy medicines, prescription Zyrtec is FDA approved for both indoor and outdoor allergies. In studies, drowsiness was the most common side effect. Others included fatigue and dry mouth. Ask your doctor about switching to Zyrtec. Zyrtec. That's Zyrtec. Lots of allergies, just one Zyrtec.
Don't get stuck with sticky shine. New CoverGirl Wet Slip. A lasting lip gloss that feels so good, it loves your lips. With a lip balm conditioner and shades that stay without all that stickiness. New Wet Slips from Easy Breezy Beautiful CoverGirl.
I'll be right back.
My girlfriend's great. She's smart, funny, you know.
Super classy. You'll go out of your way for Tampax Pearl. Incredible comfort and an absorbent braid for extraordinary protection.
Sorry. Long line.
The one, the only, Tampax Pearl.
Do you always brush for 2 minutes? Do you always floss between all 32 teeth? You would if you had the time. Good thing there's Listerine. In just 30 seconds, Listerine kills germs to fight plaque buildup in places you may have missed with brushing and flossing. For a cleaner, healthier mouth. In no time, Listerine. Worth the time, every time.
There's an exotic twist to herbal essences. Fruit fusions, shampoos, and conditioners. It takes the organic experience to an even more spectacular place.
Wait till she tries the body wash.
Herbal essences, fruit fusions, and Fruit Fusions body wash.
Leaks. Can't have them. No other diaper stops leaks better than Huggies Ultra Trim. No leak is a good leak.
There was something about Tim McGraw.
Tim's life is really a Cinderella story.
He had vision and drive.
That boy's never going to let anybody knock him down.
Even with struggles.
He said, I just need somebody that I can call Dad.
And setbacks.
So I told him he couldn't sing.
No one wants to be rejected.
Nothing could stop this country boy from being a superstar. Hear the stories from the people who know him best. Driven, Tim McGraw. Monday night at 8, 7 Central on CMT.
Get rhythm. When you get the blues, come on, get rhythm.
In 1993, Johnny Cash had been relegated to the status of an elder statesman of country music. While honored with career achievements like induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame, he found himself without a record label and without a creative outlet. His glory days seemed behind him.
When I stopped making records, it was like, where did all of the magic go?
However, all that changed when he met a Los Angeles record producer named Rick Rubin.
Looking back, knowing his past of somebody who doesn't fit in any categories, this was another category for him not to fit in. It made perfect sense for us to work together.
Johnny stunned Nashville by signing with Rick Rubin's American Recordings. Rubin's label was best known for work with heavy metal and rap artists, Run DMC, Slayer, Public Enemy, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
The initial reaction on Music Row was sort of disbelief at first, followed by a sort of sense that, well, Johnny's lost it. He's become senile. He doesn't know what he's doing, even.
He'd heard me speak about Sam Phillips and how, Sam had told me that to just bring my guitar in the studio and start singing, and let's put down everything that you want to record. And this was 1955. Well, here's it is 93. And I hear the same thing from another producer, which I hadn't heard in all these years.
The personal and musical affinity between Johnny and the unlikely rock producer Rubin began to take shape immediately. At Rubin's urging, Johnny did something he had never done before.
I asked John if he would mind getting up just by himself at a club, just to see what it's like playing by himself, but not having his band and being up there by himself, just him and a guitar, really terrified him.
I remember when the curtain came up, Johnny said, "Here I am with my guitar. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I'm scared to death."
Once he starts playing, the power of the music really takes over, and he's fine and forgets all about it.
Drive on. It don't mean nothing. My children love me, but they don't understand.
We watched John play just with his guitar, and Rick said, that's what I want right there. That's it.
In the spring of 1994, Johnny Cash released his first album with Rubin producing. Entitled American Recordings, it was a stark, no-frills production with just Johnny and his guitar. It was released to thunderous critical praise.
If I hadn't a shot Delia, I'd have had her for my wife. Delia's gone, one more round, Delia's gone.
That was the smartest thing that Johnny and Rick Rubin could have done, was just to let Johnny loose to be Johnny Cash again, which he hadn't done in decades. Just him and a guitar and his songs. And again, he becomes that sort of primeval force of nature, and you can't hold back.
Delia's gone, one more round, Delia's gone.
The album was a commercial as well as a critical success. Younger audiences clamored to hear this latest incarnation of the Man in Black. To add icing to the cake, the album won a Grammy for Best Contemporary Folk Album.
See these 19-year-old kids get hip to Johnny Cash for the first time. It's really great.
I can't tell you how great it did make me feel to get a Grammy for that American Recordings won.
It just speaks to John's timelessness as an artist. I think people of all ages relate to him.
You know, the past several years before Rick kind of came to him had just been obscuring who he is, essentially. And Rick just kind of peeled it away, said, let's see that. Let's see that part of you.
3 years after American Recordings won, Johnny released a second Rubin-produced CD entitled Unchained.
I'm gonna break my rusty cage and run.
The remarkable range and emotional quality of the music earned Johnny another Grammy in 1998, this time for Best Country Album.
He never ceases to amaze me. He's had his last couple of albums have done fabulous.
The so-called resurgence of Johnny Cash is just a part of him that was always there. And, you know, God bless Rick Rubin for helping him capture it.
After winning the Best Country Album Grammy, Johnny appeared in a full-page ad in Billboard. He offered his own special thanks to the Nashville establishment, which had so recently shunned him.
It's hard to live it down, though, you know. Sometimes you got to face up to something like that. You go, well, I agreed to it, so don't back down now.
That was very much like John, you know, like the John that I knew and loved. I mean, it's cool that he can still piss people off like that.
The title track of Johnny's third record with Rubin, Solitary Man, was another Grammy winner. And in February 2003, Johnny's fourth installment with American Recordings, The Man Comes Around, garnered a Best Male Country Vocal Grammy for Give My Love to Rose. The CD also inspired Cash's first music video in 6 years on a dark, introspective song written by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails entitled Hurt. Johnny's rendition is a stunning blend of virtuosity and vulnerability.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel.
He's the truth, you know, he's real. And he's not propped up with a bunch of tricks and this and that, but he's the real deal. That's why rockers love him and country music purists love him too. That's a real testament to an artistry.
Johnny Cash's career has come full circle. Now into his 70s, he has reclaimed his place as an artist whose voice transcends age or genre. Although the dangerous, hulking, charismatic presence is now tempered with the fragility of age, the character of his voice seems to have found a new gravity and timeless wisdom.
My sweetest friend.
John can sing a song that you may have heard 1,000 times. You may even know the lyrics to it. But when he sings it, all of a sudden the words take on a new meaning. And it takes on a kind of seriousness that it didn't have before. I've had artists say to me in the past, once he's done one of their songs, that's his now. It's like, I can sing it, but I feel like that's the Johnny Cash song now.
He is a brilliant, brilliant man, and I'm still in awe of him, even though I've been around him all my life.
I have no doubt that my grandchildren will be reading about Johnny Cash in textbooks.
I wear this crown.
This is what a real artist looks like, and this is how a real artist lives his life. That he didn't start doing parodies of himself when he was 50, that he didn't back into some kind of false showmanship, but that he stayed authentic, and that it doesn't have to stop. Real art goes on forever,
Johnny Cash's contradictions and loneliness have been muted by the years. He seems, if not at peace, at least resolved to the universal mysteries that his music explored. In the winter of his life, he is an artist, still creating, looking forward to the future.
He's very serene, he's very accepting. He professes to have no guilt, no great regrets.
My sweetest friend, everyone I know goes away in the end, and you could have it all. My empire of dirt, I will let you down. I will make you hurt. That great light is the light that now leads me on and directs me and guides me. I would keep myself. I would find a way. That great light is the light of this world. That great light is the light out of this world and into that better world. And I'm looking forward to walking into it with that great light.
I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch